Squidward will be performing his version of
Megalopolis.
in E minor.
Yeah, E minor, all right, yeah!
Welcome everyone to the first edition of my monthly Sci-Fi Roundup, series where I give my quick thoughts about the sci-fi movies that release in theaters each month. And today, we'll be talking about the sci-fi releases for September. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, this series is not off to a great start. It's been a very busy month for me, and I haven't had a whole lot of free time. Ergo, I have not seen many movies lately. So, while I was able to get around to 2 of them, I sadly did not get around to the one I really wanted to see, Transformers 1. I've only heard good things about it, and all the trailers I've seen have definitely caught my interest. And yeah, I could still go see it now, but I honestly just wanted to get the first edition of this series out as soon as possible. However, I will hopefully be covering it in next month's episode, and that means we're left with 2 movies, Megalopolis and The Wild Robot, which honestly could not be any more different than each other. So let's start off with some happy thoughts. Let's talk about The Wild Robot. As most animation fans know, Dreamworks has been on a Hall of Fame redemption arc as of late. Contrary to popular opinion, I actually quite liked Kung Fu Panda 4. The bad guys kinda flew under the radar, but I thought it was a lot of fun, and it cannot be overstated how good the Puss in Boots movie was. Like, I went and saw it with a group of friends, and just picture for a moment, us, a couple of buffoons, going to the counter to ask for 4 tickets to the Puss in Boots movie. But that shows how great it was. It's so much fun, and it reached a way broader audience than other similar movies usually do. And The Wild Robot is just another absolute banger from this studio. It follows a robot who mistakenly crashes into the woods of a remote forest and has to learn to adapt and make friends with the surrounding wildlife, all while having to learn how to take care of a baby goose and teach it to migrate. And this is just one of those feel-good movies, you know? It's endearing, it's heartfelt, it features a great performance from Lupita Nyong'o, who really brings a strong emotional core to the story. I love the subtleties she adds to Roz, like the voice for her slowly changing throughout the movie to reflect her becoming more aware and more human, and she really nails both the funny and dramatic moments for her character. I also really like Pedro Pascal in this movie, which was definitely surprising to me. Like, don't get me wrong, he's an amazing actor, but I feel like he's been kind of getting the Chris Pratt treatment lately where he just gets cast in anything even if he doesn't fit the role. This one, however, is one of the exceptions. His voice work is so good, and honestly, I didn't even know it was him at first. I like his character's role in the story, and I think he does a really good job of adding levity to the story while still playing an important part. I'm also just a big fan of the story in general. It's relatively simple by design, but the concept through which it's presented is so inventive and creative that it makes for an incredibly engaging experience. Normally I'd complain about the overdone protagonist has to take care of a kid trope, but it's well done and it's not the only thing that the movie focuses on. It's also genuinely funny too.
Taking care of him is your task now.
Task acquired. Return mode delayed. A Rosm always completes its task.
You're lucky you just have one. As a mother of 7. 6 babies.
This movie also has its fair share of serious moments too, and I was surprised by how dark it got at a few moments. And what has become the norm for DreamWorks movies can be easily said about this one too. It is absolutely gorgeous. The environments, the designs for both Roz and the animals, and the beautifully animated action is all super well done. I love the way the colors are implemented too. I don't know, maybe I'm just in a Love, Death, and Robots mood, but this one definitely felt like a short that they took and made into a feature film for kids. This is just a solid movie, and it's a shame that a lot of people will skip it because of its age rating. I've always said that just because movies or shows are made for kids doesn't mean that they can be any less well done than media for adults. And this movie is just another really solid example of this. It's good looking, funny, and overall just a great time. So 8 out of 10. DreamWorks just cannot miss lately. Guys, I really don't want to talk about this movie. I think Megalopolis might be one of the most baffling movies that I have seen in a long time. Even the theater I saw it in felt like a fever dream. The only showing for the day was at like 9 o'clock at night, and there was not a single other person in the theater. It just felt like a bad dream. Not like a nightmare, just like a dream that you wake up from and it leaves you feeling kind of off for a while. You know what I mean? That's how it felt watching this movie. And to my poor girlfriend that I dragged with me to keep me tethered to reality for those 2 hours, I am so sorry you had to watch that. and this movie already had some weird vibes about it before it even came out. From the confusing, unconfirmed allegations of Coppola's behavior on set, to the absolutely bewildering decision to use AI-generated movie critic quotes in the trailers, to the visual effects team leaving halfway through, this movie was kind of just doomed from the start. And while a lot of the blame can be placed on Coppola, you also can't help but feel bad for the guy. This was his passion project, the story he's dreamed of telling for 40 years, and after hundreds of rewrites, false starts, and attempts to get the necessary funding, this is what you come up with? I don't even know how I'd feel at that point, honestly. So what is Megalopolis about, you ask? Well, I don't really know. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank. Google, can you help me out?
A conflict between Caesar, a genius artist who seeks to leap into a utopian, idealistic future, and his opposition, Mayor Franklin Cicero, who remains committed to a regressive status quo, perpetuating greed, special interests, and partisan warfare.
Thanks, Google. So anyway, Caesar is played by Adam Driver, a genuinely good actor who truly is trying his best. See, this movie is very paradoxical. That's like the only way I can describe it. Sometimes there are some very good moments of acting from the main cast with some well-written dialogue, and sometimes it has some of the most hammy, flat, and unconvincing lines that are truly offensive to my senses.
Want to help me?
Yeah, and while I want to learn.
And you think 1 year of medical school entitles you to plow through the riches of my Emersonian mind?
Entitles me?
Yes.
Entitles me?
Yes.
Entitles me?
Yes.
You have no idea about me. You think I am nothing? Just a socialite?
No, not nothing, but I reserve my time for people who can think about science and literature and architecture and art. You find me cruel, selfish, and unfeeling? I am. I work without caring what happens to either of us. So go back to the club, bear it all, and stock the kind of people that you enjoy.
Fine. I will.
That was really bad.
Like a lot of his other movies, Coppola would encourage the actors to improvise, and he would even change or write entirely new scenes while they were filming. And yeah, this is kind of what you get when you do that. Sometimes there are some beautifully shot sequences with some actually impressive CGI, and sometimes it feels like it was shot by a film student on a CW budget. Like I said, the visual effects team was either fired or quit or something halfway through the movie, and you can 100% tell. The cinematography is also just not very good at times. They do like this weird fisheye thing for some of the shots, and it just looks so ugly. Sometimes there isn't even continuity between cuts. I'm serious. I do not usually pay much attention to the editing in a film, so it really has to be egregiously bad for me to notice. If you pair this with a sometimes completely unintelligible dialogue, then any viewer who wants to make sense of the story is completely out of luck. This is also just like a weird movie. Like, there are just some choices made that make absolutely no sense, and it feels like Coppola just threw stuff at the wall and didn't care if it stuck. For example, there is a scene where we are shown that the main character can freeze time by yelling out a particular phrase. What phrase, you ask?
Time stop!
And that is just some 10 out of 10 writing right there. There is a scene where we break for a full-length musical from America's Got Talent winner Grace VanderWaal, while Adam Driver convulses and gyrates like an insane person in the other room. There is a scene where poor John Voight disguises a tiny bow and arrow in his pants, disguised as his erection. A bow and arrow, if you will, which he then uses to shoot Shia LaBeouf in both of his ass cheeks. And I mean it when I say that this is truly when I lost my mind watching this. There is no way that this is a real movie. I am beyond astounded at how off-the-wall insane it is. This movie is the textbook definition of a non sequitur. There is barely any cohesiveness or engaging elements, and despite it being hilariously bad, it is also surprisingly quite boring. And way, way down beneath the succubus of a film are some possibly interesting themes, but this movie is just so wrapped up in its silliness that I honestly have a headache trying to unpack what Coppola is actually trying to say with it. I will note, however, that the movie marginally improves in the second half, but honestly only because stuff actually starts happening and we get more opportunities for some truly ridiculous moments. But yeah, this movie's terrible. It makes a mockery of its surprisingly good cast, it is incoherent, ugly, and its only saving grace is how laughably bonkers it is, and I don't think it's intentional. This movie cannot for the life of it decide what tone it wants to convey. and what we're left with is nothing short of a total mess. With all that said, I'm going to be giving it a 2 out of 10. People were not kidding when they called this movie Megalopolis.